And now we're going to continue on with Phil Haskell, who is also a candidate for the Maine House of Representatives. Phil lives on Captain's Landing, and he would be representing the Stroudwater area if he gets elected. And he is running for the House District 117 seat. Phil's background is in manufacturing. Phil, give us a brief background about yourself, if you could.
Thank you, Tom. I grew up in Stroudwater. I attended Libby School, Nathan Clifford, Deering High School, and then the University of Maine Mechanical Engineering. Might I say, when I graduated out of Deering High School, it was a fine education. Any student that did good work in Deering could go to about any school in New England, Ivy League or otherwise. But in the University of Maine, I studied mechanical engineering, and when I got my degree, I had to leave the state the next day. I didn't want to, because there wasn't a job that fit a mechanical engineering graduate when I left Maine. I started with General Electric, and it worked my way up through the manufacturing arena with not only GE but other companies, and eventually became a director of manufacturing down in Maryland for a $50 million manufacturing operation. That was challenging, had about 350 people in my unit, but also a lot of fun too. My wife and I both grew up in Portland. We moved back. We live on the other side of the Stroudwater River. We're both retired, and my campaign in the last 4.5 months is door to door, trying to meet the voters and have the voter meet me. And it was a very, very interesting and productive experience.
And some of the ideas you developed when you were out of state working in the manufacturing field, I think gave you ideas that could help improve the economy here in Maine. Tell us about some of those.
Well, in the manufacturing kind of positions, a lot of times companies wanted to bring me on board because they wanted to get the manufacturing operation running in the right direction, either growing or getting their costs down. And I was pretty good at that. And over a period of years, in a period of time, we found how to do it the smart way rather than the hard way. And we were successful both in quality and in labor costs.
And do you think if you were elected, you could help bring some additional manufacturing operations into the state of Maine? Or does the whole business climate need to change first?
We need to try. And we need to first go with a positive attitude, trying to find companies that fit. It's not every company that can go from wherever they are and move into Maine. But if it's a high-tech, fast reaction, okay, has a good market that they can serve, that fits very close to what would make sense to move to Maine. Now, with the proper incentives, okay, I think Maine has a good chance of trying to bring companies back. You have to understand, in the last 12 years, we've been having the tide going the other way. We've been averaging 2,000 manufacturing jobs a year leaving and going elsewhere. And when that happens, you and I are going to pick up the difference in the tax bill. We need to reverse that trend. And with my experience and background in the manufacturing and industrial arena, I know what they need. They may want something, but what is more important is what they need. And I'm talking about large operations and small operations, because in my career out in the business world, I started my own business and ran it for 11 years. So I know what a small business is as well as a large business.
Now, and since you've been back to Maine, have you talked to any of those manufacturing companies from out of state and asked them what the biggest problems for them might be if they wanted to open an operation here in Maine?
No, I haven't. I've been basically concentrating on this campaign, and I haven't spent a lot of time going back. I know pretty much what they think.
Well, what are some of those problems that you think need to be addressed?
Well, number one, you got to concern yourself with the facility and what limitations Maine may impose upon you. You want to obviously meet the requirements of the economy, meet the requirements of the environment. Those things are very important to both people in and outside the state. But beyond that, it's a basic economic situation. Maine has a great reputation, because I worked in Maine for several years myself. Fairchild Semiconductor, for one, 5 years there. It was a great operation, and it was a lot of fun, and we were very productive.
Now, most states these days, it seems, offer tax incentives to companies to build a manufacturing plant inside their borders, and I assume that the state of Maine does that too, to a certain extent. Would you favor increasing that or improving that system of tax incentives to new companies?
You have to make something attractive for a company to choose any state. And believe me, there's a lot of states that are very aggressive in trying to get businesses in their state. So it's not like we're one in the whole pie. So yes, you have to have certain incentives. Tax exemption for a period of years. That can help up at the front end when they got costs associated with moving into the state. And I think that's appropriate.
Okay, Phil, take a minute if you don't mind, and tell people why they should be voting for you on November 4th and by absentee in between now and then, rather than vote for your opponent.
Well, let me start off this way. In my campaigning door to door, I met well over 3,000 people. And the vast majority of them had one major message to give to me: no more taxes. They were very concerned, and some of them were actually in the frightening category. With that in mind, I started doing some research myself, and I looked at what I would do if I got elected to the state representative. One thing I would say, I would like to get Maine's financial house in order without raising taxes. Now that by itself doesn't sound wild and crazy, but it would be a tremendous task to do that. Taxes in the state of Maine are high. And when I'm talking taxes, I'm actually talking every aspect of the state government. I did some analysis and got some information. This came from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They surveyed all 50 states, and they looked at the state population, and then they looked at the number of state employees in each state. It was almost shocking to me. Maine has 23% more state employees than the national average. That's not a little bit, that's significant. And we're not a large state.
So would you recommend a hiring freeze?
Hiring freeze would definitely be the first step. But I think more importantly, we need to move forward in the idea of analyzing all the positions that are in the state government and to say, do we have the right people in those positions? Okay? And are we doing it, can we do it smarter rather than the hard way? That was one of my basic approaches down in the manufacturing world. Okay, we're doing it not so smart. We got to learn, and we can develop our processes and the way we do things to do it the smart way, and that helps a lot. So that's one area that I think we need to address. And another area when it comes to the state financial situation is the debt. The debt, believe it or not, and this is coming from the Maine treasurer and the Maine comptroller, the basic data. It was put together by the Maine Heritage Policy Center. The total amount of debt in the state of Maine is $12.5 billion, and that is pretty serious money.